September 11, 2001. There were 4 planes. Our flight was from Newark to San Francisco. The hijackers did their job extremely well. They had planes that had a minimum number of people. They would be very long flights with a lot of fuel. They would all take off at the same time. And they keyed in on 3 areas. Our financial center in the country, the Twin Towers, the military center, the Pentagon, the governmental center, the Capitol, because Congress was in joint session that day. There were 37 passengers and 7 crew members, and the 4 hijackers, so a total of 44. We know that the pilot, the co-pilot, the flight attendant in first class, and a passenger in first class were laying on the floor, presumably killed. The others were ushered to the back of the plane. As they came back toward Washington, which is that direction, they decided that this plane will not get to Washington. A hijacker in broken English says, "We're going back to land to make our demands known." But they knew that was not true. So they decided how they would stop abort this flight. They worked out a strategy. All we know about their strategy is some of the flight attendants were heating boiling water. That would be in the face of the hijackers. We know that there was a meal cart, and that was a battering ram. We don't have any other details of their strategy. They talked about it, they prayed about it, they voted unanimously. They had the 23rd Psalm, the Lord's Prayer, and then they rushed the cockpit. A gentleman named Felt was on the phone continually. They were able to key in on his phone calls, and as it was coming toward Washington, they were able to develop all the coordinates of the plane. All the fare companies were on standby, the state police, because they knew the hijacked plane was going back toward Washington. About 40 miles out, 30 miles out, the attempted takeover, the plane made a 90-degree turn and it headed south. There's nothing south except 3 states of mountains. The plane was extremely low, much too low, very unstable. The plane was oscillating, gyrating when it came into this area. We're told the plane came in about a 45-degree angle, about 580 miles an hour. It had 7,000 gallons of fuel. When the plane crashed, it basically vaporized. And just about everything they found, any one piece you hold in your hand. The crater, about 30 feet across, about 15 feet deep. And the question is, there's the crater, but where is the plane? And where are the passengers? And what they didn't totally realize, they were in the grass. The biggest part of the plane, 6 feet, 7 feet. Give you an idea of the total destruction of the plane. The plane augured into the earth. At 40 feet down in the crater is when they found the last of the plane and the passengers. One of the big tasks was to identify everyone on the plane. They got to the 13th day. They had one person to go. They vowed they would stay with it. Late that day, they found a little piece of backbone, our coroner told us, with a couple of tiny protruding ribs. And they were able to identify everyone. Every family was offered something for closure. We had no building until 2003. We're national park people in here. If you saw us in the winter, we look like this. They said, "Why don't you have a building?" I said, "We can't get a building. We're volunteers." They said, "We'll get you a building." We said, "Sure you will." But 2 weeks later, this building was on the back of an 18-wheeler at the bottom of the hill. This was a lifeguard station for Massapequa. Screen over here had no idea when that was put up what might happen. People started to leave things. You would never believe the things that were left. We have a curator who's out here every couple of days and takes things that will not weather, things that she particularly wants to save, things that are spent. She has taken almost 30,000 items. She takes them back, has a bunch of volunteers, they clean them, and they put them in bags, and they're stored in an underground government city called Iron Mountain. We put up a 4x8 whiteboard, gave people permanent markers, said, "Share your thoughts." They wrote the nicest things on there, just treasure. Put up a second board, a third board. This is the actual count. 53 boards later, everyone completely filled. What do you do with 53 priceless 4x8 whiteboards? They're stored in Iron Mountain. this will be a national park. And it'll be a form of a big horseshoe. The open end of the horseshoe will be down on our sacred ground. You go through the bottom, around the hill, up over top of the hill, where the junkyard is, where you came in, will be the National Park Office. It'll continue down to the right side.